welcome you to my podcast, Girl with the Camera. And I want to talk about, horror and creepy and spooky stuff because Halloween is just behind the doors. So I'm very happy that you said yes. And I've seen the trailer for your recent film, 9 Ways to Hell, and I really, really liked it. So we're going to talk about this as well. But first of all, let me ask you, what is your costume for this year's Halloween?
Okay, well, this year I went all out and I'm going to be a kitsumi, the Japanese yokai of the woman with the foxtails. So behind the curtain behind me, I actually have a gigantic 9-tail cosplay costume piece, and I have the whole geisha dress and fox ears and the mask. So I really went out all out this year to try something really fun.
So I love your website, your personal website as well, which
Thank
is,
you.
by the way, everybody go check it out. The Horror of Being Emily.
Yes.
It's so cool. Like, how did you come up with that?
Really just that is my life. Everything that I do relates to horror or Halloween. That's really why I wanted to sort of have a website where I could talk about my love for horror, share some of my favorite short films that I find around the internet, and really have a creative outlet to promote the things that I do and write. So it was a whole lot of fun. I had my roommate, Mariah Burton, designed my logo, which I absolutely love.
It's really cool. Like, I love it.
Thank you. It harkens back to Halloween, which is pretty much what I do. In my spare time, I make films. In my day job, I work in the events industry, specializing in Halloween and horror events. So that is every aspect of my life.
Did it start when you were a kid, or where, how did you come around this? Like, oh, I love horror and this is my life and, I'm going to live and breathe it.
Well, it all started with my dad. When I was a kid, he would bring out the 8mm film of Frankenstein versus the Wolfman and all those old classics. And the story goes, by the time I was 4 years old, I had rented Chopper Chicks in Zombie Town, which is a trauma film, from our local video store so many times. My dad said, well, we have to just start buying these. And we started collecting horror films, horror, sci-fi, fantasy, really all of that. And we now have a collection of nearing 3,000 titles, which is insane. It's an entire room in my dad's house. And then I have my own personal collection because I'm out in California. He's in Buffalo, but we still collect together. We'll call each other up and when we find a good movie. He really likes the B horror movies. I love foreign horror. So between the two of us, we really get a wonderful spread of different films in our collection.
This is so cool. I've never heard anything like that.
Yeah, he was very supportive. When I was a kid, we would drive up to 8 hours away to go to different horror movie conventions so I could meet the filmmakers and see all these things in action. Every year, I could choose one haunted house up to 8 hours away that we'd just drive to for the night and then drive back.
Wow.
And it really helped inspire me and push me towards this career path that I absolutely love.
Yeah, you're a film director and actor, and basically you're contributing to many aspects in terms of film. So let's talk about 9 Ways to Hell, inspired by Dante's Inferno. That's interesting. And you have been acting there, but also directing. So can you talk about like which one maybe you enjoyed more, or, do you want to continue to be directing in the future as well? So yeah, take me through it.
So this project, I was brought on a little bit later than other people in the project. I was one of the last directors brought on because somebody had dropped out, and I knew the producer, and he felt confident enough in my love for horror that I could come up with a segment. My segment was Gluttony. I did direct and act in it. I really love both. I think that when you direct, it's much easier to get the acting job. So I like doing it that way. So that way I don't have to go out and try to submit reels and headshots and all that rigmarole that I think takes away from just the craft of acting. It's a lot of fun. In this piece for Gluttony, I played somebody who had to eat on camera a lot, and that was very uncomfortable. My character in Gluttony, she has, in the opening scene, she is just eating cookies and crumbs are going everywhere, and she has to be sort of gross and disgusting. And as a woman, you really spend pretty much every day of your normal life trying to look not disgusting. So that was weird to have a room full of people staring at me as I am intentionally trying to have crumbs and chug milk and just look a little bit gross. So the first take was completely unusable because I was like wincing the entire time. But once I got comfortable in it, it was fun to do. As far as directing, I love directing. I love being with people. I think that it is great to get a team together of very talented individuals who all know their particular role very well. And then it's just giving them the freedom to do their thing, to give input. I have a pretty strict framework of how I do things. I actually am working on another short right now, and somewhere, oh, here it is. I storyboard everything out. So that was a sneak peek on my next project.
Yes.
But my whole cast and crew, they have to study the storyboards before we come on set. And really, we film it with all that in mind. So I sort of know for this part, I want the camera here, I want it there. So even though we're getting coverage near wide, medium, close up, we know really what is the most important of all those, and that helps us during the shooting process.
Yeah, I am the same. But also I leave some room for improvisation, but that's just my style. But, do you do that as well? So you have like a structure storyboard, and then if you get an idea, do you go with it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We do that. We just always have to have a framework because especially with low budget, time is of the essence. You're rushing through things. In 9 Ways to Hell, we shot it over just 2 days. So you have to really make sure that you don't miss anything. But I really love doing, we'll do a couple takes the way that I envisioned it. And then we'll always do a take of just some different way of reading that or different way of doing things. And that can sometimes lead to some really cool performances from there.
So yeah, I love the storyboard already. So this is the future project of yours.
The same filmmaking group that did 9 Ways to Hell, it's called the Hollywood Guerrilla Filmmakers. The leaders of that group are 2 amazing producers and writers, and they have come up with a new project called Tales of the Wilder Mist. Set in Los Angeles, a weird purple mist has taken over the city, and this is a series of different shorts that happen once this mist has come in. Mine will be called To All My Haters, about a social media influencer, a YouTuber, who one of his online trolls follows him offline. And it's a very fun, creepy piece. So it was really fun to take somebody else's script because 9 Ways to Hell was my script. And I'm not a screenwriter. I'll do it when I have to, but I think that there are many other much more talented writers. So I was really happy to be able to not have to stress over that part and to really adapt it. I made a few little adjustments and changes to fit my personal style and taste. But that's going to be shooting next month, and I'm really excited to work with this cast and crew. I have an amazing cinematographer. What's really fun too is with this project, I can pick my own people. So my cinematographer, Karen Governor, she is absolutely amazing. We have a really diverse cast and crew, a lot of female filmmakers, at least in my film. So it's really wonderful to give opportunities sometimes to people who don't get it. Sometimes film can be a bit of a boys' club, especially in horror. That can happen.
So why do you think, or why is that people love to be scared? Like, we are so obsessed with it and addicted to it. Like, of course, some people are like, they do hate it, but they still go and watch horror films, like, why is that? What's wrong with us?
There's nothing wrong with us. People love to be scared, be it horror movies or haunted houses, because it allows us to face our fears in a safe environment. So you are coming together in a theater with a bunch of other people. Collectively, we are watching terrifying things on the screen, and then we come out of it okay, even if our on-screen counterparts do not. And that is a wonderful catharsis to have that experience, to go, oh, look, I faced my fears, I survived. And horror really allows us to explore these fears, sometimes in a safe way, like through allegory, through a fantastic story. So that way it's not as hard to confront. Because we do have a lot of fears. There's fear of the unknown. Most recently, the M. Night Shyamalan movie, which I hear was not very good, confronts the fear of aging, which is a very real, valid fear. A lot of these are valid, but it allows us to think about that, to sort of cope with that in a way. Additionally, I really love that horror can bring people together. I think that's a really important aspect of everything. No matter where you are in the world, be it the UK or here in the US or in Japan, we all have been afraid of something. Fear of the dark is pretty common no matter where you are. So even though there are sometimes a few cultural differences here and there, which are very interesting, but we all are afraid of something, and that really can connect people and bring people together. You are experiencing everything together. When you go to a theater, you can look around you, and when one person starts to sort of laugh in that uncomfortable laugh terror way, everybody in the audience does, or everybody cheers when the bad guy is finally, taken down at the end. And that's really a fun experience to connect with those other human beings in that way.
Can I ask you, basically, when you film a horror film, okay, are you scared, or is it on the opposite? Like, you're just having fun and you're laugh, but are there moments that actually you are being scared during the filming? Like, it's that intense, or it's quite the opposite, that you just laugh?
I think it depends on the film. For 9 Ways to Hell, it was just a bunch of fun. But that one's a different type of horror. When it's more of the scary monster horror, a few years ago, we were shooting a 15-second horror film. There was a competition where in 15 seconds, you're supposed to do something scary. And we had a skeleton static prop that was just something creepy that we were moving around to look creepy for this little film. And all night long, my crew was hiding that thing. So we would hide it, because we were also trying to get it out of the way for the shot. So sometimes it was intentionally being hidden, and sometimes it was just like we had to stuff it in the bathroom for a second, and then we forgot about it and would open the door and there's a monster there. So we would certainly be just a little creeped out from that here and there. Especially when you get into a late night shoot at 2 or 3 in the morning, things definitely start to feel a little bit more scary. It really depends on the people you're with, whether you can trust them or not.
When you're filming or coming up or just having to look at the screenplay, how do you know that it's going to be a good horror film? Because let's be honest, there are many bad horror films that basically, instead of being scary, people laugh at it a little bit. It's like, oh, this is not believable. So how do you create a horror film? How do you build the tension, or what would you advise to filmmakers who want to make horror films?
Well, I do want to start by just sort of addressing a little bit, just because there are moments of silliness or levity, I actually think that those moments where there is something that you're sort of laughing at a little bit are actually really important. It's the same theory as haunted houses. So in the Halloween industry, in a haunted house, you don't just walk through and have people popping out every second. There have to be moments of rest. There are often, little joke scene or something to let you calm, because to build tension, you do have to have a release. Over time, if you just have tension, it actually wears off, because you get used to it. And when you're doing a 90-minute movie, if you're doing a feature, there have to be moments where you have a release, and then you can bring it back up. And really those little moments of connection with your character make you actually like them and actually care what happens. If you don't have really that, if it's just all tension, it doesn't really matter if they die or not. You really have to have little quirks, little moments that you can do that little giggle and connect. And that's how the character will feel real and like somebody that you can identify with.
Mm-hmm.
So when reading a script, let's see, trying to think in that process, because it's really been what I did with Tales of the Wilderness. I thought, is it a story that interests me? I read through it a couple times, and then I thought, okay, does it make sense? Does it? Because I think a lot of horror movies, people really skip that step. When you have something that doesn't make a logical sense in the film, whatever it may be, like you could be a fantasy setting where everybody is a lizard person, but if that's the reality, as long as it makes sense within itself, you have a coherent film. For example, the movie Us really bothered me because it made no sense within the film. I was looking at it and just saying, well, how does it what happens if somebody's in a plane? What happens with this? How is it, like getting pregnant is really hard. How can both get at the same time? Like all this stuff, trying not to give too many spoilers, but it made no sense. So even though it was a beautiful film, it had many scary moments. The whole time I was just asking, well, why? What? I don't understand. And so does your film make logical sense? Does your film, do your characters act in a consistent manner to what their emotional state is? Sometimes when you're trying to do a twist, for example, your character, you have a character that might be the evil one in disguise, so the whole movie you're rooting, but really the twist is that they're evil or the monster. If when they're alone in a room, they're acting scared, it doesn't actually make any sense. Think about that. You'd be like, why is the monster actually scared here? Because they know they're not scared. Come up with something better. Think about those moments. I also have a wonderful honey bunny who reads all my things with me. I can sort of bounce ideas. He is not a horror fan at all. When we met, which was over 17 years ago now, we've been high school sweethearts and all that. I took him to see the Amityville Horror, and he just came back and shook in my grandma's basement for like an hour. Not a horror fan. So I'll have him help me out. I'll talk to him about it. And if I can get something that this non-horror fan can go, yeah, it's going to scare me, I'm not going to watch it, but that sounds good. I think that's helpful. Talk to people. Don't just talk, do talk to horror fans, but not just horror fans. Make a good film and don't stress out so much on is it going to be super scary, this and that? Go, is it a good film? And then I think fear and all those things that you're looking for will come from there.
Yeah, 100%. Like the main thing is the story. Like it has to make sense. It has to be interesting. And then you just find a way, either like the camera angles or sound design, all those scary things into it. And of course, a big part is our imagination. So, we can scare ourselves the most, basically just thinking like, this is happening or is this happening? So what is your favorite horror film? And maybe this is like the hardest question ever, but try.
It is. I was thinking about this because I knew you were going to ask, and in every interview I give, it's really a different film. It's sort of how I'm feeling for the day. I think I can give you a couple that I think will sort of point you towards my general taste. I really love The People Under the Stairs by Wes Craven. It is an urban fantasy, and it's just a beautiful blend of horror and the fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a fairy tale, like an urban fairy tale, essentially, when you really break it down. So that's really fun. I absolutely love animated horror, which is really hard to find. We need more animators out there to make scary films, please. But I highly recommend Soul Station, which is the prequel to Train to Busan. It is just a very cinematic animation. Not to do a spoiler, but the ending scene is just so cinematic. When you do an animation, you can show whatever you want. It's animation, you can just draw it. But they chose to show a shadow on the wall for one of the most like pivotal moments of the entire film. And to me, that was such an amazing choice for an animation. It's really one of the best horror animated films that I've ever seen. And the whole Train to Busan series is amazing. Peninsula, I love that one. So I guess that would be another favorite film of mine because I like happy endings. So,
Nice.
and then lastly, I would recommend Rec and Rec 2. They're Spanish zombie films. For all the American people out there, Quarantine was the American shot-by-shot remake. And it's not bad. It's just, it was basically shot by shot, except for the end, which is different. And I guess I should mention, I have a film school background. I went to USC Film School, University of Southern California. So I can get super geeky into that side of things. Zombies around the world are very different. So it is sort of fun to watch Quarantine and then Rec and see how in the Spanish culture, where they have much more of a religious background, they take it in a religious way. It's very interesting how they're doing their zombies. Whereas in the American one, it's scientific because we don't have that. We don't have as much of a cultural identity with that type of religious thing. Like if you're super religious, you tend to not do the horror thing at all. So it's not the same as there.
Yeah.
So really, zombie films around the world are very interesting.
Definitely. Yeah, I loved Rec. I didn't see Rec 2 yet.
It's a continuation. So I sort of lump them together. Just watch one and then go straight into the other.
Yeah, because it was super creepy. I was like really scared, like, ooh. So let me just ask you, do you have any specific dream or what is the goal for the future for you? Like, maybe directing like a feature film or... Yeah, I'll let you tell me.
Yeah, I'd like to finally direct a horror feature. I was hired a couple years back to do a drama, and it was fun. It was really fun to direct a feature, and I loved it. It was SAG cast, but my passion lies in horror. I really want to become the queen of Halloween, I guess is how it goes. I want to I would love to do a horror film that I could then sort of turn into a haunted house and have a very fun, immersive experience. I love to find ways that sort of bridge film and live event experience. It sort of brings all my worlds together. I love doing that. I love film festivals. So my goal someday would be able to program again. I used to program at Scare LA. We were Los Angeles's premier Halloween convention. We had a screening room there, and that was so much fun. Now I work with Screamfest Horror Film Festival, which we're actually going on right now. It's a 10-day fest. So that's why we are part of the reason why we're also meeting so early in the morning, because every day from like 10 a.m. to midnight, I am currently at the film fest. So I really love that. I love to empower creators as well. So as much as I have fun on my own projects, there's something amazing to be able to empower other filmmakers to create films that I then can enjoy and other experiences for audiences. I love that.
100%. And the last thing, when 9 Ways to Hell is going to be released, how can people watch it?
Hopefully soon. We are still looking for distribution. Our film came out, unfortunately, during the pandemic. So I haven't even been able to see it in theaters. It was so sad. It actually played in my hometown. My dad and my grandma, my family all came out to see it. And I was stuck in Los Angeles because I couldn't fly or didn't want to fly. I wanted to, not spread COVID for a little bit. And so we are still looking for distribution, but we're hoping that something comes out soon. And please check out our website, 9waystohell.com. 9 is in the number 9. And we will have information as soon as it's available.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. And I appreciate it because it's like 7 or actually 8 in LA, 8 a.m. So it's crazy. Yeah. So thank you so much. And I'm definitely sure we inspired a lot of filmmakers right now with this episode and help them with some tips. So thank you again.
Yeah, you're welcome. And your viewers, if you contact me through thehorrorofbeingemily.com or on Instagram at @EmilyIsHorror, I'm certainly willing to answer any further questions or give you any advice that I may have. I'm always happy to at least maybe point you in the right direction to find some resources to answer your question if I can't myself.